Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So it's been about a week since the incident. I've seen a lot of people calling it like the incident, and I like that. So it's been about a week since the incident, and I wanted to make this video. This is probably going to be the last video that I make about this specifically, discussing where do we go from here, right? Where do we go from here? Do you know where do we go from here? I've been playing that shit nonstop. I attended a meeting last night that was like an action meeting, just discussing. A bunch of us just got together. I would say like activists and artists, and to just talk about how we feel and how we feel about moving forward. And so before I really even get into this video, there are some things that I want to read for you guys, some notes that I took. And these are just some questions that people came up with, right? Where am I going to be volunteering? How can I be a resource on a political level? What is urgent? What does new infrastructure look like? What can we commit ourselves to? How can we use our frustration and anger to empower instead of shutting down? How do we create structures where we are not reliant on the completely corrosive mainstream structures that are forced on us? So I thought that those were some really good questions. And those are some questions that I'm going to put those questions in the description box so that you guys can kind of look at those questions and think about them and kind of reflect about them, yourselves. For me, ultimately, I feel like I've come to the conclusion that ultimately I feel like this is about narratives. We have literally been talking about narratives. I have at least 5 or 6 videos where I say in the beginning, like, and yet again, we're going to be talking about narratives. Ultimately, I feel like this is about narratives. We've been talking about narratives for the last year at least, and this narrative is the idea that, white rural America is real America, right? The narrative that, cities full of millions of different types of people is not, that's not real America. The narrative that white authority is the natural order and something in our country has gone terribly wrong. The narrative that our country is moving in a certain direction and they don't want it, In a way, I feel like we've made so many public strides, especially this past year, that we scared them. And now they removed the mask and showed how they really feel. And I feel like, they may have won this battle, but they're going to lose the fucking war. You're going to lose the war because now everybody knows. Everybody knows. So all those people that were maybe on the fence, no, everybody knows. And what are we going to do? We're going to continue to do what we've been doing. We will continue to disrupt their fucking function, in the words of Jesse, well, he didn't say fuck, but in the words of Jesse Williams, we will continue to disrupt their function. We will continue to disrupt that narrative. We will continue to move forward regardless of who the president is, because now we are all armed with the knowledge of exactly what it is, which I already knew. Yes, all white people, but now everyone knows. So thanks for exposing yourselves. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. And I do want to say, like, Black people, like I've been saying, like I'm going to continue to keep saying, it is not your job to sit white people down and talk them through this. I've said before that systemic racism is something that is very much wrong within white culture, and they're the ones that have to figure it out. Racism is illogical. It's, racism is blaming the blacks for lack of jobs in the Midwest instead of blaming a crumbling economic and political infrastructure. Racism is affluent white women voting for a sexist fucking pig instead of their fellow affluent white woman, Hillary Clinton. Racism is to behave in a way that defies logic. So Black people cannot sit y'all down and talk it out logically with y'all. Like no. And I see you guys, like Black people, like sitting online all day trying to like change the minds of racists, and you're not going to do it because 1, they're fucking illogical, and 2, they're not going to listen to you because you're Black. So you're the enemy. That has to be white people's work. And if white people can't sit down with their family members and friends and consistently let them know that this shit is racist because it's too hard and uncomfortable, then they're useless. Just like I said in my fucking white ally video, then they're useless. So Black people, we have to keep building outside of the mainstream infrastructure, which again, I've talked about before on this channel. So consider, putting your money into a Black-owned bank and supporting Black-owned businesses, whenever you can to the most of your abilities. Consider homeschooling your kids or opening a co-op. Consider organizing some type of community patrol for your neighborhood. Consider getting into urban agriculture, learning how to grow your own food, supporting, community plots and gardens. Learn about what the urban ag, laws are in your area. In DC, for example, they've really been pushing urban agriculture really hard. So, for example, churches and like recreational centers that have nonprofit status, if they allow people to use their land for urban agriculture, even for commercial use of people like selling their fruits and vegetables and their produce at farmers markets and stuff like that, they still maintain their nonprofit status and they get tax breaks. And if you like have a backyard or something like that and you use your land for urban agriculture, you also get tax breaks in DC. Look up SNAP, which is another DC program, SNAP. I also posted on Instagram, for anyone that follows me on Instagram, you probably saw it. I also posted this flyer that I saw. I'm just going to read you guys what the flyer says. If I can get it to, there it goes. Help feed yourself. Make backyards and vacant lots productive. Work a garden. Raise chickens. Grow vegetables and fruit. Can or preserve surplus perishables. Keep a flock of hens. Somebody has to raise or pack everything you eat. Do your share. Make every jar. Help feed your family. Demonstrate thrift in your home. For people that don't, have backyards. For people that are, renting and trying to combat gentrification and invasion in our neighborhoods, learn about tenants' rights. Know what your rights are. Show up to community meetings. We have to try and start figuring out more ways to possibly pool some of our resources to maybe buy an apartment or buy a building. Which I have videos on all of these things. So I'll put links to all these videos. I have 3 sets of videos. I think it's 3. It's at least 2, but it might even be 3 sets of videos on gentrification. I have a video on homeschooling. I have a video on, I have videos on all these things. Continue to subvert narratives and create your own narratives. And I think that this is especially important for Black artists to continue to create right now because our art drives popular culture and culture wars are a big part of this too. Just like I talked about in my last video, affluent whites that don't want their fucking kids dabbing, that's culture, affluent whites mad that like Solange is on SNL and mad that Beyonce performed Formation at the Super Bowl, like that's culture. Affluent whites that want to argue with you in the New York Times comment section to like, wait for the facts, when an unarmed Black person is fucking shot and killed by police, that's culture, right? And just so y'all know, FYI, the New York Times has ran multiple pieces that are essentially, white nationalist propaganda in the last week. Just today, they ran a piece, like I mentioned in one of my other videos, they ran a piece that one of the editors ran a piece talking about, the Democrats are considering, having a Black Muslim as the next leader of their party. Like they haven't learned their lesson, right? Like they should get it basically said they should get a white racist. Like they should get a white nationalist from the Rust Belt so they can appeal to the white nationalists. Like this normalization of white nationalism in mainstream liberal publications. The New York Times ran a piece just today, this morning. Democratic losses have jolted the party to a conclusion. Its emphasis on cultural issues has all but crippled it. So it's basically saying, stop focusing on cultural issues. Like, go back to focusing on white people. Like New York Times is officially a white nationalist rag. That's what I tweeted, I said, you're putting too much cultural emphasis on those Blacks. The whites don't like it. Cut it out. It's crippling your party. That is essentially what, these, affluent white liberals are saying. Somebody was like, yeah, focusing on the cultural issues created a huge backlash, and the Democrats need to deal with that. And I replied to that person. I put, protesting slavery created a huge backlash called the Civil War, so maybe we shouldn't have done that either. You're going to see people try to, really normalize white nationalism. And you already have these outlets that are trying to normalize white nationalism as like rational, you know? Like, oh, they won, so we're gonna all be white nationalists, you know? Like, you know, oh, the white nationalists won, so Democrats, you need to like appeal to white nationalists. Like, no, we're not gonna do that. Like, and they're doing that because these affluent white people have had enough, just as much as their poor white trash counterparts have had enough. So don't let people try to tell you that this is just about like poor fucking rural white people, because that's bullshit. Which I also have to say, all this shit about like the poor white working class is also funny as shit, because just like I said in my last video, the Great Recession is not a white people thing. Like, the disappearing middle class is not like a white people thing. Like, Black people have historically been the canary in the coal mine. Shit comes for us first, then it comes for the poor whites, and then it comes for everyone else. And Black people have been saying for years that there's no jobs. Black manufacturing cities, working class cities like Detroit were all but abandoned by the government, and no one listened to us, right? We were told to just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and stop being lazy, because if your white father in Jim Crow, Iowa in the fucking 60s could get a job in a factory and support his entire fucking family for 40 years, why can't we, right? But now all of a sudden it's, we need to talk about poor white people. We need to talk about the disappearing working class. Like, niggas are the original working class, so like, miss me with the bullshit. Like, we are not normalizing white nationalism under the guise of fucking poor white people. Like, I won't allow it. I will not allow it. Do not let people tell you that this is about like poor white people or anything but racism. It is about racist white culture and the white lash against change, and people wanting to go back in time to a time that does not exist anymore. Be it a time, you know, pre-automation, when you could walk in a fucking factory with a high school diploma and get a job that allows you to support your entire family for 40 years and move from working class to middle class, you know, the American dream, which that was not available for millions of African Americans, and that time has come and gone, obviously, for white people as well. Be it a time pre-social media when Black people just didn't have a voice. Be it a time when white people could just do whatever the hell they wanted without fucking consequences, you know? Like, this is a culmination of feelings that we've been seeing building up for fucking years, for years. It is about white people of all demographics seeing themselves not being centered in one way or another. Like, for once. Like, they're just not centered. They're just not centered anymore. Be it, again, the rich white people that are tired of hearing about diversity every time they watch an award show, or the poor ones that feel like no one is doing anything about the niggers taking all the jobs. They're not centered anymore, and they don't like it, so they went to the polls and centered themselves. But to me, the funny shit is, y'all did all that, and we're still not gonna disappear. Like, I drive past this almost Christmas, like billboard, like bus thing. And every time so I've been driving past it for probably like the last month. And Almost Christmas is a movie with Monique and I think like, what's her name? What is her name? Boris Kojo's wife. I can't think of her name. Nicole Ari Parker, and it has like this full cast of like Black people. It's a Christmas movie. Every time I drive past that sign, I think like, man, like look at that sign. Almost Christmas. This is like a big Christmas movie with like nothing but like Black people. It's about this like Black family, and they have like the Christmas sweaters on, and it's like, y'all won, y'all voted for Trump, but like you still had to wake up in the morning, and if you're taking the bus, you had to like stand at that bus stop and like look at that sign. And if you drive past it, like how I drive past it, you still had to like drive past that sign. So I just thought about like all the white people that voted for Trump that like woke up the next day and they still had to like look at that sign. It's like centering this Black family at Christmas time. And ooh, like I can't wait for those niggers to disappear. Like, we're not going to disappear. Like y'all won, but that billboard is still there. And we're still here, and we're going to keep doing the work, and we're going to keep showing up, and we're going to keep being loud as fuck on social media, and we're going to keep creating, and we're going to keep subverting the narrative, and we're going to keep building infrastructure outside of the system. And it's just no going back. It's no going back. Y'all want to go back. It's no going back. You can't stop progress. And for those of y'all that like to work from within the system, because I know I talk a lot about working outside of the system, for those of y'all that like to work from within the system, midterm elections are in 2018, and all 435 seats in the United States House of Representatives will be up for grabs. So, you know, look up your local your local politicians and volunteer and there are actions that you can take. Like I said, there are actions that we as Black people can take from outside of the system. Put your money where your mouth is, support Black-owned businesses, put your money in a Black-owned bank. Again, learn your tenants' rights laws to combat gentrification, learn about urban agriculture, consider homeschooling, consider organizing a co-op, all these things that you can do from, outside of the system, and you can also do from inside of the system. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So we're not shutting up, and we're not going away. And like I said, if anything, now we're just going to go like twice as hard, because now more people see the truth about how white people really fucking feel about us. So where do we go from here? I'm gonna leave those questions in the description box for you guys to kind of ponder. Please let me know in the comments, how do you guys feel about action moving forward? And buy a gun. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.